This episode of the SwitchCast is produced by Danny Kenichi Avalos, our honored patron and most regal Switch Knight. Hey everybody, I'm KC.
And I'm JV.
And this is the SwitchCast, the podcast for the Nintendo Switch enthusiast. And we are just riding this train of both dreams, of hype, and, I don't know, gold doubloons?
Maybe. I'm just really feeling the holiday spirit, KC.
Oh, are you? Are you a guy who gets really into it?
I don't get into the festive aspect of it, but I do get into the mood. Like, everyone's starting to be more giving, more generous, and trying to be nicer during the season, so I just ride that wave. Ride that wave! Yeah.
I totally get it. No, just to, honestly, around New York, I feel like people in New York, because there's so many decorations around here, I mean, all over the city, there's the trees. It's very well lit up, and people get into the mood. And actually, today I had an awesome experience on the train. That's why I brought it up. I want to give a quick shout out to Winston, if you're listening and you actually followed through and you decided to download the show. He just sat down next to me on the train today, had a Switch on him. I was playing my Resident Evil. He was playing Fire Emblem Warriors. And, just started talking, and I told him about the show, and he told me about some cool fighting game club tournaments that go on around the city.
Yeah,
so,
that's cool.
It's just the cool kind of when you see someone with a Switch, you got that, we're a social bunch,
Yeah, you got that instant connection that you can discuss with that person. That's a really cool interaction. Yeah. We don't really have that many communal spaces in Texas. Everyone drives, so there's not as much public transit.
Right.
We don't really get as festive in that way here. There's not really any place where you can see all of the places, all of the houses decorating. But there's just specific areas within the city that they really dress up that you can go to visit and have holiday cheer.
Oh, especially around my neighborhood, because right near me is a famous neighborhood in terms of the over-the-top Christmas decorations people do. Like, these are the kind of people that hire Santas to hang out in front of their houses at certain nights just to give out to things. And there's tours. Yeah. You can get a tour bus to come through Diker Heights. That's the area.
Right, okay. I can imagine just how affluent those families are. It really is just their front lawn that people are visiting and touring.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
oh my gosh. They have so much money to do that.
No, most of these people are either they own car dealerships or in the mafia. One of those things is very common.
If you live in Brooklyn, it's almost always going to be the mafia.
Mafia car dealership, it's hard to tell the difference sometimes. Come over to Louis, and come over to Manfredi's Mercedes. We got everything you need, especially trunks big enough to fit, I don't know, maybe a 6-foot tall, 200-pound body. I'm just saying.
That was
just
so
throwing
good.
that out there.
Oh, slow clap, Casey, slow clap. That was incredible.
Thank you.
Okay.
But I have been doing my shopping. I've been trying to get some things down. I have my first secret gift for the significant other.
Okay. I'm on the same boat there. I don't want to say it out loud just in case.
I know Amelie's not going to listen, so I'll just say that I did actually pick up the SNES Classic.
Ooh, that's going to be fun.
Yes.
That is a good time.
I'm very hyped about that, especially after I just looked at all the games that are on it and just the two-player ability of it.
And there's a lot of classics that really hit home on the SNES Classic.
And she said, though, she's really more fond of the 2D Mario games.
Okay.
So I think this is our chance to, kind of
play.
Slingshot from Mario Odyssey into some classic ones there.
I'm really wondering if maybe they would re-release the new Super Mario Brothers series, because that's a co-op 2D Mario game.
Well, that was She
right?
Loved That on the Wii.
Oh,
That was
okay,
the
well, there
last
you go.
one we played before Mario Odyssey. That was the one we played.
She really liked that one.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Naturally, she would.
She's still like not totally on board the 3D Mario games, but she was able to enjoy this enough to.
Okay. That's pretty reassuring. Though I do want to bring up our plans for next week.
Okay.
Right? So yeah, I just as a heads up, everyone, we're going to be making a last minute buyer's guide next week.
Yes. We actually asked you guys if you want us to do a short segment this week or a long segment, a little more in-depth, where we can prepare a few more things for next week. And that is what at least the fans
Community.
on Discord. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what the community wanted.
Yeah. So we're going to try to make that a more encompassing aspect of the show.
Yeah. So we're essentially going to be covering, different, target audiences or target gamers that you'd like to purchase for. And then we'll go into what games would fit for them.
Yeah, and if you guys want to, in anticipation of that, send me, just
Recommendations, maybe?
recommendations or questions of like, look, I've got this 75-year-old father-in-law who's into cooking and macrame.
Yeah, that's true. If you guys have any ambiguity and want to know what Switch game would best fit a weird relative or acquaintance, let us know and we'll tailor our answers to your questions. Also,
we got a few other big episodes coming up. I want to just hint at. After that episode, we do have an interview lined up, so we're going to be having our next guest developer come on the show. I'm not going to spoil who that is yet, but we'll announce it on the Facebook, and I'm going to ask you guys for questions for us to ask them, so you guys can still participate in that. And considering just how much community participation and involvement you guys have been having lately, I feel like everyone who's not joined the Discord chat or the Facebook community, I implore you guys to join. It's a really good way to get in contact with us directly and let us know what you want from the podcast. Yeah, sometimes I almost feel like I'm almost on too close of a call. Like anyone who wants to @message me on the Discord basically dings my phone any time of day, and I almost feel compelled to join in. I almost, like, a part of me wants to mute it, but I'm like, nah, that's part, it's my burden. It is my pleasure to always be in connection with you guys and to answer your instant needs. It's a gift and a curse, but I feel like it's just part of our community. It's part of who we are as podcasters. We want to be as available to you guys as possible. Yeah. And the episode after that, the last episode of 2017, we're going to announce our games of the year, our Nindies of the year, and we're going to read off your choices for those awards from the SwitchCast Choice Poll that I have posted, and that's still running. It'll be running all the way until we record that episode, so it's tight. Any game is still available to win, and I will, again, put the link in the show notes, but if you haven't voted yet, we have over 100 votes right now, and that's pretty awesome, but I would like to get as many as possible. And if there's any game, even if it's not listed in the poll, you can write in any name you want. And I usually will then add it as an option for people in the future. So, but we have a pretty good spread of choices that people have been picking. It's pretty tight. Yeah, I'm very impressed with how this has been going. So hopefully we can get your feedback and share all of your community opinions on that podcast. Oh, and they've been throwing the opinions in the comments on from the Facebook. Absolutely. Yeah. There's lots of thoughts, and we'll do what we can to cover as much as possible. Yeah. And lastly, in the show meta here, I just wanted to bring up, we just got an email today, and this mostly concerns our current patrons. I want to bring this to everyone's attention because you guys, the patrons, are the ones who really make this show possible. You're the ones who keep us going. And we just wanted to let you know. You'll probably get an email by the time this posts, but if you haven't seen that yet, we've just been told that Patreon has been changing a little bit of the way they do their fees. If you're not familiar right now, when you pledge to us, Patreon gets like a 5% cut as their profit for making this whole possible. And then on top of that, they would charge us a like a service fee basically for doing all the transactions. That would always come out on our end, and we're fine with that. But they're now making a change where if whatever you pledge, they're going to put that service fee on your end. All right. I just want you guys to know that it's about 2.9% plus 35 cents. If you're donating $1 or $2, that's like 40 cents about, altogether. And it's even less significant if you're one of the bigger pledgers, but I just want to make sure I mention it to you guys so you know and you're not surprised or you're not scratching your head of like, what's this weird little extra charge? We haven't made the decision. It is something that Patreon's doing.
Yeah, we definitely want to make sure you guys aren't blindsided by this. It's something that affects all the people who contribute monetarily to us. So we want to make sure it's out there and it's as candid as possible.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you guys want to, you can I'm perfectly happy if you want to keep it exactly as is, but if you feel like annoyed by these changes, you can cut your pledge by like 3% and make it even that way if you want. That's your call, but I hope you all will still stay with us with it as solidly as you are right now. I don't think it's that big a change, but there's really nothing. It's Patreon's decision, not ours, so
just want to make sure it's out there.
Yeah, that's it. And thank you guys, though, who are supporting us as always.
Absolutely. Much love. Mucho more.
All right, let's switch around to let's stop talking about serious stuff, huh? Can we talk about some games?
Yeah, let's talk about some games. Let's do it. Yeah.
All right, JV, we've been waiting for it.
Oh my gosh. Where to even begin with this game that I'm going to be talking about today? So, if you guys haven't already guessed, I have been covering Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And there's just so much to this game, it's hard to really pin down what I want to talk about. You've seen all the trailers and all the material out there, right, Casey?
Yeah, no, this is a expansive title, not just in terms of, like, territory you cover in the game, but there seems to be so many mechanics, features, things that you can play. There's the customizable character, there's the blades you unlock, there's the battle systems upon battle systems.
It looks pretty daunting in the beginning, so I'm gonna start this segment talking about a little bit about the story, and then ultimately I feel like what you want to know is my opinions, both positive and negative.
Okay.
So I'm going to start there. This is such a big game. I want to make sure we have this discussion as organized as possible. So to start with, as a very, very brief summary, you essentially start off as a character named Rex, who's a young salvager boy and gets caught up in the world and is ultimately searching for this land called Elysium, which is essentially the world's mythical version of heaven. People don't know if it's real or not, but it's something that Rex is dreaming of. The world's filled with what's called titans, which are gigantic beasts that have whole environments and civilizations grown on their backs. It's kind of a callback to Xenoblade Chronicles 1, where there's two gigantic beasts and all the civilizations are on their back. Now there's just a plethora of titans that hold whole empires and landscapes and mountain ranges and forests on their backs.
Is there even a surface world? Because I've seen nothing but these giant dragonish things floating around and all the action happening in the clouds.
Honestly, I'm not sure. Whenever you see the clouds, they reference the clouds as the Cloud Sea. And when you jump onto the clouds, you can actually just swim as if it's water.
Oh, okay.
which is strange. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to learn about that more as the game progresses. I'm only currently 25 hours into the game, and I don't feel like...
Only 25 hours into the
game? Yes. And I feel like I have not touched more than I really should be.
You know, honestly, sometimes games like that, I like it when there's certain things like that aren't explained. Like Final Fantasy X, never explaining why some characters just don't need to breathe underwater, or some characters just can do it. I don't even know, but just some characters could go underwater and never have to breathe, and it was just a thing, and they never ever explain it at all.
I just want to be able to dive down below the clouds and just see what's there. You know, see what's happening.
Maybe it's an adventure on a gas giant. Like, this is what life in a gas giant planet would be like.
That would be incredible and, yeah, very interesting. I actually didn't think about that theory, but it could work. Anyway, when it comes to the battles themselves, there are blades and drivers, and they have a special bond between each other. Mm-hmm. The blades are essentially sentient beings that are held in these core crystals, and they turn into weapons for the drivers to wield in battle. This is kind of a symbiotic relationship where a blade gets power from their driver, but the driver utilizes the unique capabilities of the blade in combat, etc., etc.
Are they, like, manufactured, or are they some sort of natural occurrence in the world?
I believe they're natural occurrences. People go out and find what's called core crystals, which hold within it the essence of the blade itself. Okay. And then, so they, I guess, channel it and unlock the character inside, and that becomes their blade.
Okay, gotcha.
The story gets really involved, and I'm not going to even try to tackle the minutia of it. You can imagine it's a typical JRPG fare. You start off as a young character, the scope is kind of small, and then you get thrust into a situation where you get a power that's not expected of you, and that's where Pyra comes in. And from there, you gather more characters, learn about everyone's character motivations, go through quests, and run into various civilizations, etc. So,
how many characters do you have on your team at this point?
Right now, I have 3, and I know for a fact that there's going to be a lot more than that.
Okay,
readily available. That's how it is right now. I definitely want to go over the positives. And I do want to stress that there are negatives to this game.
Okay.
I know there was a bit of controversy, especially focusing on, I believe, the Kotaku articles, where the reviewer felt actually quite negative about this game. And there was a lot of backlash, including, death threats and a lot of anger. Things. Yeah, fan base anger. And I understand where people are coming from when it comes to defending this game, but I do not want to shy away from the fact that there are negatives that I want to bring up.
I don't think our community are trollish enough to get angry at you for giving it an honest evaluation.
Right, exactly. I'm absolutely confident that you Switch cats are all awesome and won't get upset if I say anything bad about this game. But I definitely want to start with a positive, because there are lots of positives to this game. To start with, I actually really dig the characters and the characterization so far.
Okay.
They're a little bit generic on the baseline, and I don't think I've gotten to the point where I can go in depth to their characterization quite yet. But each character has quite a bit of potential. They have really well defined personalities, and the dialogue is actually quite fun between them.
Now, are there other characters that have blades or drivers? Wait, driver's the wielder, blade is
blades are the blades. Far, every one of your characters are drivers with their own blades, and you can even get additional blades to give to each of your characters. That's a thing.
I got the impression like that's a big thing, is the relationship though between some of these characters and their blades. Or are you the only one that has a major plot character blade?
Essentially, you're the only one that has a big pivotal blade that's really pivotal to the story. But I guess you can kind of treat the blades as Digimon for the characters. Like they're Digidestined, they have a link. Each character has one blade that's really tied to their character, and you can equip more. But they're less important to that person's
like that
character.
Cat girl and her dog boy.
Yes. The lion blade is actually really cool. His name is Dromark, and his face is super cute, but his body is really cool and menacing, and I think I like that.
I just call him Red 14 in my head.
Yeah, he kind of has that style. He's a bit more posh and regal than Red 13. So, speaking of posh and regal, I'm actually really enjoying the voice acting within the cutscenes.
Okay. Are you listening in English or Japanese?
I'm playing it in English. I feel like it's just how it is. I want to play it in English. I don't want to read subtitles for this type of game, considering just how much I'm going to be invested in it.
And you want to put your eyes on the graphics and the action.
Right. And they actually use European accents quite a bit, Casey.
Oh, okay.
You can hear very vivid Irish, British. One of the cat girl's accent is actually Welsh. So imagine that type of accent on a cat girl. It's actually really fascinating, and I'm enjoying that a lot.
Are like each of the nations, is an accent linked to each of the countries in the game?
It's hard to say. There's not really a pattern that I'm noticing yet, mostly because I don't really have that much of a grasp of how each nation is differentiated right now. But it's a big part of the game, and I actually really like that. The accents are pretty consistent with Xenoblade Chronicles 1. If you remember, that got an English localization, but only in Europe. Mm-hmm. And then when they brought the localization over to America, they didn't bother redubbing it for an American accent, so they just kept all the British accents, and it was pretty cool. That's why Shulk has at least a European accent in Smash, which is great, because I feel like that type of accent is giving Xenoblade Chronicles an identity, essentially.
Well, I even just recently learned that there is like a certain type of British accent that is considered the theater, the movie accent that was popularized when like movies first were starting to get sound added to them.
Right.
And there's actually like a reason for why that is considered the acceptable movie accent that a lot of people even had to learn to use when movies were first a thing.
Yeah, which is really cool. I do like that it's just so diverse, all the European accents, because Irish accents and British accents are very different, and different characters have that type of accent. There's even American accents thrown in there.
That's cool, because that actually because like when you hear nothing but the accent that we are used to, you forget that there is an accent just on everybody speaking. When it is a character who is speaking your accent, surrounded by people speaking every other type of accent, you're like, oh, I that guy's supposed to be like my kind of thing, and you kind of can associate certain things that accent is typically going to denote in a character.
It's just so cool. The cat girl character, Nia, she has like a pretty typical Moe style character design.
Yeah.
But her voice is like kind of like a somewhat adult Welsh lady. And so she's like European levels of snarky, and you kind of take her more seriously because of it, and she's not cutesy as a character. And I think that's such an interesting subversion, because I know the Japanese voice actress is just the typical, oh, sugoi ne kawaii type that high-pitched accent.
I couldn't take that. I could not. I can't. I like Japanese dubbing for most anime. I don't like it for some of them, but like that kind of over cutesy thing does turn me off.
Right, and I feel like it's a very interesting choice for the dub, and I like it.
All right, I really want to know though, like of all the character interactions, how much are you buying the chemistry between Pyra and Rex so far?
I'm actually really liking it so far. As it goes, Pyra is kind of expressing a bit of a big sisterly vibe, and the characters kind of riff off of each other. Sometimes Pyra can like be joking and sarcastic a little bit in certain moments, and that's kind of funny and enjoyable. Like the actual individual dialogue and like off the cuff comments that aren't really part of a big conversation, I like that. They really handle the characterization of those off one-liners pretty well.
Is there any romance to feed me yet?
It's very much hinting at it, but
okay.
And there's actual a lot of moments where they sit down and really talk amongst themselves, and it gets you to really like the characters. And if through various points in the game, there are these areas that called heart to hearts, where you can take it to the time and then
All right.
set up a cutscene to really get to know some characters.
I dig it. I need to know, though, have you come across a villain yet?
Yes. I like when it comes to these types of villains and that stuff. I don't really want to spoil anything because there are quite a few twists and turns. There's a villain character right now that's she's really awesome and dominating in a sense that she's an imposing figure, but you can kind of tell that there's, she's not really evil, that she has some, positive motives to her. It kind of reminds me of Game of Thrones, where there's just so many different vectors of characters, and it's hard to say really who the villain is based on perspective.
Okay.
So yeah, there's a lot of that going on, and I'm really liking that it's not just a super obvious villain so far.
All right, that's cool. I still remember first time I played Final Fantasy X, and the second I saw Seymour, I looked at him like, he's the villain. He has to be the final boss of this game or something like that. And it was just like so like obvious, and he was so not super deep in terms of motivations and stuff.
Right.
It kind of spoiled it. I like villains that are like, villains shouldn't think of themselves as villains. They should have a, road to hell is paved with good intentions kind of vibe.
I don't have a definite villain so far. I know there are antagonists.
Okay. All right. That's a good way to put it. That's good.
But none that have outwardly villainous intent right now.
Do you have any favorite villains of all time that you want to throw out there while we're on this topic?
Oh my gosh. That is a difficult question, Casey.
Every time I see this game so far, it makes me think of the Lunar series, which is one of my favorite RPGs of all time.
I haven't played Lunar.
Oh, and Galleon, which is he is possibly top 3 villains of all time for me. And I realize it's been a very, very long time since I've ever met a villain in a game that has truly inspired my villain worship in a way that he has. So.
Okay, that makes sense.
I was just hoping this game would throw one out there sooner or later. If they may take one from mine, I'm fine.
I'm definitely not there, not at that point yet.
Okay.
There are a lot of characters, and so far, most of the people I'm fighting are actually pretty mostly motivated by self-interest and greed.
Speaking of fighting people, let's talk a little bit about this battle system. I've gotten the impression it's a lot to chew on. Has it been manageable for you so far?
So it's definitely interesting. It's not difficult to understand. It looks pretty complicated, but it's not difficult. There's a lot of depth to it, but outwardly, as a quick description, you essentially have these arts that are tied to the blade that you're equipped to. There are 3 types of blades: tanks, healers, and fighters for the respective, DPS, tank, support classes. And each of them have skills. You essentially play like an MMO. You auto-attack, and each of your auto-attacks charges up your arts. And once your arts are charged up, you can use the arts. Every single time you use your special arts, you charge up a super meter. And that super meter is where your big attacks come in. You have that for your character. You customize which arts are available based on the blades. You time and build your character based on what you want to do, whether you want to produce heals or do knockbacks or positional attacks. And that's pretty much it. If you got into an MMO, you essentially know how this works.
Okay. Yeah, especially like it has a very strong FF14 kind of feel to me.
Right. It's not difficult. The combat and the complication comes with customizing the characters. And even that isn't really super complicated. If you've seen something like I believe it's Final Fantasy X Sphere Grid, it's similar to that, except it's less complex and overwhelming than the Sphere Grid.
I got you. You know what's actually funny? I saw a chart someone made once, and they took the Sphere Grid from Final Fantasy X, which we've been referencing a lot here. And if you just don't take out the twists and turns, it is actually way more linear and simple than it looks like when you put it in a 3D sphere. It actually is extremely straightforward. It's just that the way it's presented makes it look
super
gives it the
complicated,
illusion.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like that. It looks more complicated than it actually is.
Okay.
So I honestly, I would take the time, if you're into this type of combat, to sit down and look at it, and it'll come to you pretty quickly.
All right.
I do want to give a big notice to the environments. They're super lush and filled with so many vivid creatures, and I'm really in love with how everything looks.
Can you just get lost in it? Are you free to explore? And
you can get
find
lost
stuff?
in it. You can find stuff, and you can get lost in it. I can tell you right now, you can get lost in it. But as positives, the aesthetics are really visually stunning, and I love that you can even look out in the distance and see the clouds and really the areas you can explore from there. It's great in that sense.
Oh, awesome.
Now, I want to get to the section. It's neutral. Let's see,
Okay, some neutrals.
It's a neutral feeling. Mostly because this type of mechanic might not be great for some people. For me, I like it. I like how you unlock blades. But for others, it might not be ideal.
Oh, yes, I was interested in this. It's kind of like a loot box without paying.
Yes, right. It utilizes the gacha loot box style of unlocking characters. You essentially, when you go around the world and kill things, they sometimes drop what are called core crystals. From there, you can channel them, and once you channel enough, they unlock the blade character that you can equip to your driver.
Okay.
So essentially, you get these little loot boxes, you unlock them, and that's the character that you can use.
I do feel like that term, only because it's been so much controversy this week, I guess we should specify, not that it's necessary, but I feel like we should really stress these are all things you get in game for free. There is no option to spend money on more loot
yes,
more
it
of
is
these
not,
crystals. Right?
It is not a microtransaction. It's just things you collect in game. You don't buy them, but once you unlock them, they can give you normal or even rare blades with more specific, weirdly tuned capabilities.
That would probably be a negative for me personally.
Right. Like for me, I actually kind of like the enjoyment of that randomness. So whenever I do unlock a rare character, it feels like I got lucky and pulled it well.
Half of my Twitter feed this week has been people ecstatic about their rares, and they post the pictures and they're like, "Oh, I can't believe I got this one. I'm totally in my team." Like, that is a plus side for it.
Yeah, the fact that it's random and that it doesn't cost money makes it feel like, my fortune brought me this rare character. This is more my rare character than your rare character is to yours. You know?
Yeah.
It feels more like it's yours because you essentially, quote unquote, earned it.
Yeah.
Now, there are different tiers of crystals, and they do dole them out pretty regularly. There's standard core crystals and rare core crystals, and you can unlock rare ones based on that. There's also something called a booster, which essentially lets you focus the element of a core crystal so that you're more likely to get an element that you want.
Oh, interesting.
So
okay.
if I have a bunch of fire and dark element characters already, and I'm kind of looking for a wind element, I can throw wind boosters at my core crystal before I unlock it, so I'd have a higher chance of getting that element.
Hedge your bets for what you want. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And these boosters aren't rare. None of these are particularly rare, so it's just an element that's fun, and I personally enjoy it.
Cool.
So I made sure that's expressed as neutral because I know some people might not like it, but I personally do like it.
Okay, no, that's I totally can see the appeal for some people in that. That's totally legit.
Yeah, and honestly, even if you don't want to touch this system, you can kind of get away with just using Pyra. You can kind of get away with just using Dromark. You can kind of get away with just using Poppy. It's almost an optional element that you don't necessarily have to touch. You'd definitely be crippling your diversity and capabilities, but, if you like a character, you can maybe just focus on buffing that one blade that's already built in.
All right, let's hear it now. Come on, let's go into the dangerous territory. What is What is in your naughty list for this game?
Highway to the danger zone. So what's on my naughty list? Okay. I definitely want to start without this segment talking about the voice acting again.
Okay.
Because you know how I mentioned that I enjoyed the voice acting previously?
Yeah.
I hate the in-battle dialogue.
Oh,
Casey.
okay.
Each enemy has 1 or 2 lines that repeat constantly. And each of your main characters have like 3 or 4 lines that repeat constantly. It gets so repetitive that they even talk over each other sometimes.
Okay. See, that is the kind of situation I would switch it to Japanese because it's not as troublesome if I don't know what they're saying.
Right. No, exactly. But it still sounds really busy. And while some of the lines are actually pretty, clever and endearing, hearing them over and over is really annoying. I do have to say, there is a slider that lets you turn down the volume of in-battle dialogue. So
okay, that's good.
If that's really bugging you, you can turn that down. You can also turn down any battle narration that happens. So if there's too much talking, you can lower it down. But I want to bring up just how badly some of the soldier dialogue is, Casey. Like even by voice acting direction. Yeah. Here's like a quick voice acting workshop with JV. So there's 2 lines that one of the Xenoblade soldiers that you fight say. They say, "Don't forget me," and "Think you can take me." Those 2 lines specifically.
Okay.
But the way they deliver it is so off. So it's like, "Think you can take me," that line. You'd be like, "Do you think you could take me?" Or something like that. But how they deliver it is like, "Think you can take me." And then the other line, it's "Don't forget me," right? You'd expect it to be like, "Don't forget me." But they deliver it like, "Don't forget me. Don't forget me. Hey, don't forget me." When you're attacking. And
the only other way I could see that being said is like, "Don't forget me."
No, this... In this context, they're attacking you, and they're like, "Hey, I'm attacking you. Don't forget that I'm here, because I'm a threat." Me. Yeah, exactly. But they are like, "Don't forget me."
Okay, all right. I'm already getting sick of hearing this, and it's just you repeating it, and I can imagine how much
it's really bad. It's. I want to bring this up because it's almost a meme within Xenoblade now. This is a thing, and I wanted to bring it up. It's so bad.
Okay, that is a potential bother.
It is a bother. It is luckily, you can turn off the volume for that. So, it's not necessarily something you have to experience if it really bothers you that much. And as much depth as the combat has, to start off, it actually can get a little slow. Mostly because whenever you start a combat, you don't start with any of your arts. Your arts are dependent on you hitting first. So you
just kind of stand there while you auto attack and build it up.
And then build arts. You can later on get a perk that lets you start with your arts. And from there, the flow moves a lot better from there. And that it becomes a lot more like a standard MMO, and it feels pretty good after that. But, for the first few hours that you're going through the game, you start off with that slow combat movement, and it can be pretty much a bother. So another big problem I have is that the maps in the game are kind of difficult to navigate through.
All right,
like the mini map is so honed in and zoomed in, and it's so undescriptive that you can get lost really easily.
I see. So even though you're in such a big zone, seeing your immediate surroundings on a map doesn't really help.
Yeah, exactly. It's not helpful at all, and the navigation compass that leads you to your next quest point can kind of lead you in the wrong path sometimes, and you can get lost. It's kind of weird because the quest marker shows you in a direct line how to get to your next location. But you might not even be able to traverse that way. You might need to go around a different path and find a different route to take. It's not as bad for main quests, but on side quests, you're a lot more likely to get lost because of it.
Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah, so essentially if you want to go somewhere, you really need to take the time to plot out where you're going. It almost becomes its own puzzle to figure out how to get to the marker on the map.
Okay.
Which it's true. That's pretty much how I have to figure it out. It's like, it feels like it might have been designed this way to add gameplay, maybe. I have, who knows?
Added a puzzle game element to the exploration in Xenoblade Chronicles.
I have to figure out, can I walk through that path and go around? Okay, maybe I can. And once you get there, it's like, no, I guess I can't go here. But from this point, I guess I can kind of see that this path is walkable up there. Oh, okay. I'll go, that type of stuff is what you're thinking. But it's tricky.
All right. So is there any other major faults right now that you want to get off your chest?
Yeah, I mean, I've been talking a lot about this game because there is a lot, and I do want to cover quickly that there are a lot of tutorial pop-ups that are kind of intrusive, and they're very important, but sometimes they're a little bit ambiguous, and there's not really that way to revisit them more easily.
Oh no, you can't just go to your tutorial list.
No, I think there's a tutorial merchant that you have to speak to get the tutorial stuff in. People have it's kind of silly, but people have actually recommended screenshotting the tutorials so that you can revisit it yourself. Which is a little silly.
Interesting.
And
it's a good hack.
Yeah, I guess. And one of my last gripes is that loot items can kind of be weird to get. Whenever you kill an enemy, they spit out these loot items that you pick up, but if you're in combat, you might not be able to get to the items in time, and then they disappear before you can pick them up.
Oh, that's lame.
It's lame. It's something you just have to be more mindful when loot items drop, and there are some times when the loot items can clip through scenery and you can't get to it.
Yeah.
But that's it. Those are rare occasions, but they do happen, so it's good to know.
Overall, so far in your first 25 hours, how you're enjoying it though?
I'm enjoying the characters a lot. The gameplay and the customization of the characters I'm enjoying. The primary exploration is fun, but it can have those frustrating moments when you get lost. So, that's might be how people enjoy the games, might not. The fighting is fun, but you have to get that upgrade to really speed it up a bit.
All right, very cool, very cool. I'm sure we'll hear more about your adventures in the weeks to come. This is definitely a title you're going to be touching upon for a while.
Yes, and hopefully I covered a lot of topics. There's so much more to discuss about this game, but it's a lot, Casey.
I can only imagine.
It's a lot, Casey.
Maybe you can host the next Switch Topics with a cast of people who've played the game.
What I was thinking was, I'm actually playing the game with David. We're playing it concurrently. We could pass the controller back and forth.
Okay.
And so we might record a special Switch topic about it for you guys.
Oh, very cool. That would be really awesome.
Yeah. That could come in the future once we're done.
I've been playing something concurrent with our community this week, actually.
Yeah.
I have really taken to Nine Parchments this week. And, this week, I mean, it came out officially last night.
Yeah, and there was a demo for it previously that you were really getting into.
Yes, and a lot of people, a couple of people I know actually played that demo to death. And though I did not want to burn myself out on that because I know this is a game with a little bit of grinding to it, and there's some potential for repetition. So I didn't want to spoil myself on that.
Right.
So I saved myself and I started playing it. And just to recap what it is in general, Nine Parchments is a gauntlet style. It's almost like a twin stick spell shooter as you pick a wizard and you are going through these locations, and you run with one joystick, you change your facing with the other Joy-Con, joystick, and you have a selection of spells that do different attacks or heals and stuff like that on the screen.
Right.
The real twist, the real claim to fame for this game is the multiplayer. It is online. It can be done locally. Up to 4 players join the screen at once. And yes, that aspect was not available in the demo, and that is where this game is going to make or break it for you.
Right.
I started my multiplayer game the other night, and throughout the night, actually, people were able to just jump in and jump out of my quest through the stages as they wanted, or random people even were able to jump in here and there. This has some cool benefits. It's really fun when you have other people there. If you guys have any kind of strategy or if you have any kind of communication, is really important, because this game, friendly fire is a thing.
Oh, yes. That is going to be fun.
And it's not just friendly fire. Like, your spells do all sorts of things. Like, they might bounce off an enemy who has a shield and they go ricochet in a different direction. They have splash damage, and they might have, like, I have a lightning bolt that when it hits one enemy, it goes to the next target. And all these options, all these things make it very dangerous to shoot your spells without a care.
So it kind of reminds me of Magicka in that sense. That's actually part of the appeal of that game, the friendly fire.
Okay. I think that it is pretty fun. You can, I believe, on certain difficulties, it is an option to turn it off. You could also have reverse damage happen, where if you friendly fire someone, you take the damage instead of them. So that could be a way to really make sure you don't do that.
So that's an option you trigger on your side?
You can, whoever hosts the game can choose what the
friendly fire setting is?
Yes.
Okay.
And you could just turn it off, but I kind of like it. It is an extra challenge.
Yeah.
Also, your healing spells can heal the enemies if they walk into them, so that's another thing you have to worry about. So, like, there's also the opposite of friendly fire, I guess.
Yeah.
Aggressive healing. There is a lot of different enemies. I was having a hard time because I really wanted to communicate with some of the people, but only some people were in the Discord chat for me to talk to during the gameplay. And having that level of communication really smooth things out a lot. Like I said, there's some enemies that have a shield, and if you don't know that means you have to hit them from behind or hit them with a melee attack, there's people who are just going to be shooting laser spells at them, doing no damage forever. and it's a real trick. And there's a lot of little tricks like that. There's some enemies that have AoE attacks that you can avoid just by jumping. And if you don't know to jump, or you don't all jump at the same time, they can really kind of get you in a loop and just instant kill you. You can resurrect each other. So if someone dies, you can just, they'll slowly have a little timer that spins until they, can resurrect. And it speeds up dramatically if a player's standing on their death space. So a lot of times it's just like, okay, I'm the only one left. Everyone else is dead. And I'm just trying to run to each of their corpses for a second or two before the enemies chase me there. I'm just trying to resurrect people, but you can get things going after a bit there. And also having a good spread of spells is so important. I mean, it's nice to have at least one person who's focused on the healing, because you don't need that many people throwing out spells anyway. You don't need people shooting 100 spells. You need to have someone who might not just be focusing on the defense and buffs and stuff like that. It's pretty vital.
Now, how customizable are each of the characters that you can play
The characters, so the characters, in addition to the spells that they start with, as you collect the parchments after certain boss fights, you can unlock new spells that they'll be equipped with for the rest of that particular run through of the game. So there's a random choice of 3 that you'll get to choose from each time.
Okay.
Or you can choose to randomly get a spell of one of your teammates if you don't like any of your options there. In addition to that, there's also skill trees. And you can either say, I want to buff my magic regeneration rate. I want to give allies extra defense when I heal them. I want to have my fire spells do more damage, that kind of thing. And so you really, and the skill trees are different for every character. And there's even unlockable skill trees, but you have to do certain achievements, play through the game with, 4 fire spells. And when you
gotcha.
If you have 4 fire spells on one character, you'll unlock this whole skill tree for them. So your level will be persistent each playthrough. If you reach level 20, you can go back and play the game from the start level 20. But there's a thing at the beginning of the game that lets you re-attribute your skill points.
Okay, so you can reallocate. It's essentially prestiging, right?
Yeah, basically like that. Right. Okay. And there's tiers, once you spend 5 on the first tier, the second tier unlocks, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
So there's a lot of that. So yeah, there is a decent amount of customization in how you want to play it. And I think that's pretty important. And I made some bad choices last time we played. I had a really good combo of a lot of shock spells that paralyzed guys just long enough for me to heal my allies and just hold it off. But then, you get into a fight where half the guys are immune to lightning and I have nothing to do.
Right. Okay. I can see that. It might behoove you to diversify a little bit so you can encounter more things.
The other thing I like doing, but you really need to have good communication, is you can kind of do like a Ghostbusters cross the streams sort of thing, where some of the spells are like little laser bolts, and if you and your friend both have your shots converge, they will merge into one super shot. That's really hard to aim because it does take your angles into account. So you have to really have good coordination to make use of that. But it does have a very potent effect.
That sounds fun, actually.
It is fun, even though right now in our total non-well-organized play, half of it is everyone run around, kill things, and resurrect whoever you see is dead. And it gets really hard. We started playing it on hard, and then before the night was done, we had switched to normal difficulty.
Just because it gets really grueling?
It can get very hard some points. As long as you're not on the hardest level, which is hardcore, you can always go back to the last checkpoint. Okay. But there is a hardcore mode where you wipe, that's it. You start from the beginning. And, but that's really meant to be done only when you have like max level characters, because there's apparently some characters you can unlock that can go up to level 60.
Wow.
Yeah, like 40 is the regular max, and there's like some special characters you can unlock. And there's all sorts of weird achievements you have to do to unlock characters, like get this guy's staff and then go clean the graffiti off this wall in some stage. And
okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. I do wish there were more characters unlocked from the start, though, other than the 2 that you get to choose from.
So that you don't necessarily have to get into a character that you might not get into later on.
Yeah, I kind of like right now, all I want to do is unlock someone that I can really focus on and level them up. But I feel like right now I'm leveling up this character so I can use her to unlock a character I want to level up, and I'm just gonna feel like this is a little bit of wasted effort right now.
Yeah, because you're not gonna play as this character in the end because you want someone else. Okay.
Yeah, right. And there's like 8 characters about, and there's like 4 variations of each character, each with a little twist on their theme. So there's a lot of characters when I feel like I guess if you're really gonna play this game to death, that'd be great. But I feel like this is the kind of game where you're going to pick 1 or 2 guys and just kind of stick with them.
So, okay.
Yeah.
So it does sound like it's fun for multiplayer. Do you know if there's any local multiplayer that you can do with this?
Yeah, you can also do the local multiplayer.
Okay.
And that's probably like also really ideal for, like I said, the communication is just so important.
Is it same Switch, or do you have to have the game in multiple Switches?
I haven't tried it yet, but you can play local multiplayer on one Switch. Also, you can play it amongst separate Switches as well. But again, yeah, you're all sharing the same kind of screen space, so it should work either way. And yeah, the online's been good. Though I will say, though, they probably do need to patch it. I hadn't experienced any problems last night, but a few people said that they kept getting error messages trying to join groups, and it might have been, maybe there was too much server load or something for the first night of the game. We'll see, but a few people said they were having problems getting into games when they were playing it. So we'll see how that goes over the time. That was only the first night we've been playing it. We'll definitely be playing it more. It's pretty long too. Like, I feel like there's a lot of stages. It's not a game that I'm even going to beat the campaign, all the stages in a few sittings. It's probably going to take me a week just to beat all the main stages, and I'm probably going to want multiplayer for that too.
So how is the story in this game? Is it very narrative driven, or is it just dungeons and stages just for the sake
There's literally just an intro of you're all students who, your wizard teacher's like, you're all banned from using your magic until you have it under control. Whoops, I lost my parchments with all our important spells on it. Go get him. Okay.
Oh, great storytelling.
Story over. No one, that is not part of it here.
Okay, so I guess the big draw to this is the multiplayer, and that's mostly what we covered today. So
yeah, I feel like the different characters would be more of a draw if I said it was a little easier to unlock them earlier on.
Yeah, so okay, I'm definitely interested in picking it up for the sake of playing with people. I think that would be fun.
Yeah. And for the price of $20, I think it's a pretty good investment as a $20 game, especially if you could find people, or you could look for the randos to pick up online.
Okay, yeah, that sounds like a good time.
All right, the end is nigh, and that's not me saying the episode's over. You did get to try out the end
Yes.
The end is nigh, which was given to us as a promo.
Yes, so yeah, I have been playing The End is Nigh in between sessions of Xenoblade Chronicles, and I have to say there are definitely heavy comparisons to Super Meat Boy. It's just inevitable. Because this is definitely perhaps a spiritual successor, not necessarily a sequel, but it pulls from similar concepts to Super Meat Boy.
Feels like it's in the same kind of world as that. Like...
It's not the same world. The aesthetic is definitely different. It's a lot darker and it's more vividly black. But but the genre is in the same room as Super Meat Boy. And
I like that term you just said, vividly black. That's so poetic.
Indeed. And the art style of this game is actually pretty appealing if you like that black, muted, shadowy aesthetic. It reminds me of a mix between Braid and Super Meat Boy and the blackness of Limbo.
All right. Interesting.
But I'm going to say right off the bat, if you love Super Meat Boy, you will love this game. It is
okay.
It's that same or that similar at least. However, there are natural differences to Super Meat Boy in that this game is actually quite a bit slower and more methodical than Super Meat Boy is.
Okay, so you're not like, I start a stage, and if you stop moving or overthink a jump for a split second, you're going to get ground up by a slicer.
Right. In SMB, you really have to go through the route and try to essentially be as reflexive as possible to get through a path and then get out of to the next stage. In this, everything is so precise, and I feel like it was designed that way on purpose. Your movements aren't necessarily controlled by inertia. When you jump, you almost always know how much you're going to jump. Whenever you land into a platform, you're sometimes encouraged to just stop, take a moment to figure out how you're going to go to the next section. It's really that precise. You don't have the pressure of getting through it quickly like you would with Super Meat Boy.
Is it a similar stage structure?
It is. It's kind of similar. In this one, each level is exactly one screen in size. You know where you are, where you're starting, and where you're going to want to end. So you can, from the start, you can plot out kind of what path you're going to take to platform to get to your goal. And that's part of the appeal of this game. The methodicalness, the figuring it out, it's really a different mood despite being in the same genre as Super Meat Boy.
So would you say maybe it's a little more like puzzle solvey? Like, is it like about looking at the stage, analyzing and figuring out how to get through it?
I can definitely see it as that way. That's actually a really good way to describe it. The figuring out how to get to the level and figuring out the execution is part of the puzzle of this game. And I actually enjoy this quite a bit more than Super Meat Boy because of it.
Oh. Now, is it the same? You have the same general abilities? Do you just have like run and jump or wall jumps? Is there any other little tricks up your sleeve?
Well, you have your character and you jump, and you can kind of control how far you jump based on your inputs. You don't necessarily jump from the wall, and you don't do weird physical changes, and you don't splatter when hitting a wall immediately. But you walk around. Sometimes there's hooks on the walls that you latch onto, and you stick there, and that gives you a moment to figure out how else you're going to go from this position, and then you jump off from there. It's a lot of precision, a lot of methodical, figuring it out, a lot of thinking. And I actually really like it. And even whenever you die, everything resets and you go back to the beginning. So once you die, there's no weird random elements that would affect how you have to react. It's all going to be the same each time you die, each time you try to tackle a level.
Okay. What is the general premise, though, of like the world? What are you? What is this? Like, I know Meat Boy, you were a piece of meat saving Band-Aid Girl or whatever. What is this one's plot premise? Okay,
so you're essentially a character, a black blob, and you kind of get sucked into this video game. It's not really aesthetic of it is cool and it's dark, but I don't feel like the story is really what you're going into this for. Like, the premise isn't really that big of a deal. If this was essentially a Super Meat Boy skin, like the theme thematically, I don't think it would really deter or benefit the game whatsoever. It really stands above it really stands in the genre of Super Meat Boy based on the fundamental gameplay.
Are there bosses that you've encountered yet?
No, there aren't bosses, but there are. Each of the levels can get significantly harder, and especially the later levels, a lot of it can be incredibly punishing, because there's sometimes you have to jump through tunnels with lots of hazards that can kill you instantly, but you know that there are specific small platforms that you need to jump on to survive this that platform. So you really need to be precise and figure out how much you have to jump to here. Take a moment, figure out the next jump until you get to the end. And honestly, I get pretty stressed out while playing it. It can get pretty fatiguing because it does grind your mind quite a bit more than Super Meat Boy does, which I felt was really reflexive, and I had the mindset where I would just keep tackling a level and run through it brute force until I win. In this game, it doesn't feel like that.
I was going to ask if, like, there's ever do you ever hit a stage where you're just like, you don't know what you have to do to get through it, where it's not a matter of execution, it's a matter of you just don't know where they want you to jump at a certain point.
No, this game is deliberately not that. They really want you to figure out how you're going to get through a level, and it is a matter of execution quite a bit. Which is why I like this better than Super Meat Boy, just in general.
All right. Anything else about it that was particularly different or interesting
honestly,
to you? Honestly,
I would recommend it if you want more Super Meat Boy. It does scratch that same itch, even though it's not the same pace. But yeah, there's a lot of games in this genre. So it's just another addition to that game style. You have a lot of choices.
But a strong one, you feel.
It's one of the stronger, more well-polished ones. You can definitely tell that each of the level designs were made very deliberately.
Okay.
They actually took the time to design it well and figure out the experience that they want the platformer to go through.
All right, very cool. All right. That's a lot of game stuff we had to talk about today.
Yeah.
So
there is.
Let's hope we have some room for the community pulse, because we got to do some news rundown, and then we'll see if we have time for some questions.
Absolutely. Let's go for it.
Alright, so this being the Xenoblade Chronicles episode, I wanted to mention something that was actually really encouraging that I saw in the Xenoblade 2 controller that they released, the specially designed, it's not just an aesthetic update. Apparently they added just a little feature that some people noticed that solves a problem I have mentioned in the past. I've mentioned how I can't use a lot of controllers. Like, I couldn't use the Pro Controller for fighting games because I would always, if I was hitting left and I rolled my finger in a certain way, I would also hit up or down, and it would just confuse my inputs. Apparently it's just a very small little change with this. The D-pad has a little more of a rigid pole or a longer, thing it's balanced on. And that eliminates the possibility of doing that. Like, you cannot hit up with the left or right button. You have to actually hit the up part of it. And I kind of wish this is the one I would have gotten my hands on if I held on. Not that I'm happy with my Pro Controller, but it's just funny because I'm one of the few people who has made this complaint, and now I see that they've actually fixed it in the newer model. Probably all newer models will have, not just the Xenoblade one will have this fix.
Right. Now, I actually did pick up this controller, and it feels really nice. If you can see the picture of the Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Pro Controller, you can see that there's an actual texture to the grip that's a little bit different from the standard Pro. And I like that a lot.
Oh yeah,
it feels
a
really nice.
little more rubbery.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel sticky, but it feels comfortable in my hand, and I like that. I like it.
Cool. So, are you hungry for some Super Mario cereal?
Apparently it's a thing. Super Mario cereal.
Now, I know you're way younger than me, so I don't know if you ever remember the Nintendo cereal that came out a million years ago.
I had no idea there was a Nintendo cereal, so yes.
Oh, there was a brilliant Nintendo cereal back in the 80s. It had a commercial. Nintendo, it's for breakfast now. Nintendo Super Mario. Wow.
Wow.
And it was actually two cereals in one. It had two bags inside of it, and the left side would be Mario and the right side would be Zelda cereal. And it was pretty brilliant, but that has gone away obviously since. But yeah, we're going to be getting a Super Mario Odyssey cereal.
Okay. I mean, I actually really dig this. The box looks vivid and cool, and maybe it'll taste good.
I believe it is reshaped Lucky Charms. So if you like Lucky Charms, it is literally, that is the cereal basis of this, with marshmallows and just Mario mushrooms and stuff.
Which makes sense.
Yeah. And I think it's cool because they're actually, instead of the classic toy in a box, there is a amiibo chip in there somewhere. I believe it might just be kind of like the cards or like those amiibo bookmarky type things that I've gotten before. The box functions as an amiibo, and they suggest to you to use it in Mario Odyssey. So I'm sure
no, the amiibo is a sticker on the box itself.
Yeah,
so you scan the box. That's cool.
So I bet you can take that off. You could probably peel that off like some sort of little sticker or bookmark. But we'll see when it comes out. But yes, that's like modern age toy in a box.
That's so cool. How cool is that?
Some people at work were actually upset about that. They did not like
having the
some of my colleagues were like, advertising to kids. That's wrong. I don't know.
Oh, come on.
This I don't see any.
Yeah. I don't see a problem with that.
I think toys in boxes of cereal are just like such a tradition. It's just like, it's the most acceptable form of child marketing.
Acceptable. Sure. We'll take it.
Okay.
All right. So remember the Terra Battle game that we played on mobile platforms back then, Casey?
Oh, right. Yes. I was a very big fan because of Mistwalker Studios, who broke off from Square.
Original Final Fantasy creators.
Yep. And they started making some mobile games.
Yeah. Apparently they're interested in bringing Terra Battle to the Switch.
Terra Battle, for those who are not familiar, it is a free-to-play, it's a very interesting twist on the kind of the gameplay of, like, what's that one, like Puzzles and Dragons?
Right.
It's the closest thing. I don't want to get it confused with that, but it's very much based on battles in which your characters are all little squares, and the monsters are also squares, and then you have to kind of slide your heroes so that they flank enemies and they do attacks based on who's next to them. And it has beautiful, gorgeous art. And it's a pretty good free-to-play game with an actual storyline that goes on, and there's cool characters that you meet. And I was really pulled into it.
Yeah.
Terra Battle 2, not so much, but Terra Battle 1, amazing.
Okay. So apparently they're interested in bringing Terra Battle 3 to the Switch. So it might be something they'll keep an eye on.
Yeah. Just something that the Hironobu Sakaguchi, the lead developer on there, is saying that he thinks it would have a good home for. So very cool. I would love it. I would quite invite it, especially as a potential free-to-play game. But if they made it pay a certain price and, play, that would probably also work as well.
Yeah, if they go the voice route of support for this, it could work.
Yeah, I think that could also be good because they are worthy of pay games.
Right. Yeah. Now, speaking of worthy games, apparently there's going to be a special Breath of the Wild broadcast in Japan. They recently announced from Nico Nico that there's going to be a Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild presentation in Japan on December 12th, 2017.
Yeah, we don't know what this means, but I'm going to suspect it's possibly the next DLC going to be shown off.
Yeah, and they mentioned that the Champions DLC is going to come out sometime by the end of this year, but The year's almost over. Perhaps this is the announcement of when it's going to happen. Or maybe it's going to be released the same time as this broadcast.
So we'll see. We'll report on that next, we'll probably report on that by next week, because that'll be next Tuesday, and we record the day after that. So we'll see what happens.
Sounds good.
I think this is interesting, not for necessarily the game itself, but for some implications of this. So a game was announced for Switch called Gekido Kintaro's Revenge. And this is a little brawler type game. It is actually a GBA title that is being brought to the Switch, coming soon. But this is actually the first GBA title which is announced for the Switch. And it kind of begs the question, what's this mean for the Virtual Console? Like, does this mean that they're not even looking at Virtual Console for any of these systems, and we're just going to be getting games one at a time like this on the eShop, and then that's not even a thing? Because we haven't heard anything about that
Virtual
in a long
Console.
time now.
That's actually a really good point. Maybe they're even just ditching the whole Virtual Console brand, and they're going to release the games individually on the eShop by themselves.
I think this is a hint in that direction. I still think if we don't hear anything by January about a Virtual Console, I think it'd be safe to say that that's just not going to be a thing. And yes, we'll just get the games in the eShop in some, slapdash, or, not slapdash, in some random order here and there. Whenever.
No specific rhyme or reason to it necessarily.
Yeah, but you know what? Could be an upside. It just means when a good game is available to, or someone wants to bring it to the Switch eShop, they'll do it. They don't have to, be put in this special little section separate, and they won't feel like, we have to bring out some game for GameCube or whatever every month just to put something out. It could just be when a game is good and people want it, they'll bring it out.
Yeah, that's true. The implications, it's hard to really determine what the implications are for the Virtual Console, but we'll see.
All right, so a new little thing I call it Big in Japan, just when I see a game that is in Japan and probably won't ever come here, is really, really worth pointing out. And I saw a YouTuber playing Joy Sound Karaoke, which looks like an insanely in-depth Switch karaoke title.
Oh, it's so cool, Casey. Apparently you can plug your Switch into any speaker, and now your Switch becomes a karaoke machine. How incredible is that?
Yeah. Two really huge cool points about it. One, there are currently 140,000 karaoke songs available on there. It is a real deal, karaoke system. I think it actually charges in some weird way too. I think you might just pay for a certain amount of time playing it, and you could just sing as much as you want within a certain time limit. It was all in Japanese, so I couldn't really tell everything about it. But and when you're playing it, it apparently plays a random video game trailer from some Switch game that may have nothing to do with the song you're singing.
I think that's a really good feature, because a lot of karaoke machines out there, the backgrounds are just so weird. Sometimes it's incredibly generic. Sometimes they show clips of a soap opera or something.
It's pretty good.
But this is a good way to tie it to the Switch. Just play a random trailer. Why not? It's free content.
All right, in the updates, we got Switch firmware update to 4.1.0. Only real notable thing about this is that it supposedly fixes some issues with inaccuracies with the motion controls. So that's there when you download it.
Yep. So there's a new online event for ARMS, which is the Party Crash. And this time it's going to feature Ninjara versus Min Min.
Our martial artists. Okay. I honestly, I think Min Min's going to win this one. Because
absolutely.
She has such a strong following.
I mean, Ninjara is definitely cool, and people do like him. Ninjara was actually the most popular character in the demo. But,
yes, that's right.
But, Min Min's the ramen girl. Come on.
Min Min for the win-win.
Min Min for the win-win.
Fire Emblem Warriors is getting a Fates DLC, which was announced for December 21st, so not long from now. This includes a bunch of characters from the Fire Emblem Fates and some costumes, including, of course, a maid outfit for Camilla, Takumi as a butler.
Okay.
Corins get their opposite factions look, and they add the Azura's mysterious dancer outfit, the black dancer outfit. And they also have the broken armor models added for the Fate characters, so now they have the broken looking armor things.
Yeah, so they're stripped down to their underwear.
Yeah,
probably. Oh, at least it's equal opportunity fan service here.
Yes, right. And history mode maps will be based around Azura, Niles, and Ouroboros, respectively.
Very cool. I actually really like the history mode of this game, so I want to see how those come out.
Cool. Down the pipe, we have the next Penelope, which is a cool-looking top-down racer game with lots of shooting going on. It's a really fast, futuristic racer, but lots of things going on the screen for you to shoot and blow up while you're racing around this track with a bunch of other cars in the space setting.
Yeah.
Oh, now this is cool. Bridge Constructor Portal.
Okay.
Are you familiar with... Have you ever heard of this game called Portal?
Yes, I have heard of Portal.
Have you ever played Bridge Constructor?
I have heard... Oh, yes, I have played Bridge Constructor, actually.
Okay. Well, they're throwing these two things together, and it's coming to Switch. It is a game where GLaDOS is there and everything, and you are now being tasked with, you have certain materials, you have to build a bridge for a vehicle to get across this gap, but you're, in addition to the normal, here's some joints, here's some poles, here's some, road work you can use, you're going to be able to use portals and other techie kind of equipment to figure out how to get your truck from one side to the other.
Honestly, I would never have guessed that this would be a collaboration.
No, never.
But I actually think it's brilliant.
It's really cool.
Looking at the graphics of this and the screenshots, I feel like it could work. I feel like this could be fun.
Anything that gets GLaDOS to make fun of me in more new ways, I'll be behind. That's fine.
Yes.
Oh, yes, just today was the big announcements. They revealed Mega Man Legacy Collection 1 and 2 coming to Switch in 2018.
Super fighting robots.
Yes.
Man.
This is
so
actually
excited. Sorry.
A big surprise because in August they said that specifically that they had no plans to bring at least Collection 2 to Switch. And now they've confirmed both of these are coming. On top of that, Mega Man 11 was also confirmed as a game they are developing, and it's going to be for Switch in addition to other systems.
I'm so excited, Casey.
So you're going to be excited. The Mega Man 11 looks pretty cool, though. I mean, I do prefer classic graphics for the Mega Man, but I can appreciate the games that put Mega Man in these more modern, even 3D models in 2D planes.
Oh yeah, I've always enjoyed that aesthetic for Mega Man, honestly. And I'm just so glad that they're revisiting this franchise again and sticking to what makes the franchise good in the first place. So
yeah. So yeah, we only have a little bit of trailer on that, but that still looks pretty good. And Attack on Titan 2, which is coming out March 20th. I just got a date that they may have leaked a new Scribblenauts title that is coming to the Switch.
Scribblenauts first came out on the Nintendo DS, and that was a surprise hit back then. I would be really happy to see it come full circle back onto the Switch.
It had a few spin-offs as well, and
it did.
Yes, and it looks like it hasn't been formally announced, but I believe it was one of those situations where someone tried to apply for a copyright or a rating. There was a Taiwanese rating for a game called Scribblenauts Showdown that was spotted, and so that is what it's so Showdown. Maybe there's some sort of
PvP element to it.
Perhaps.
Oh. PvP Scribblenauts would be awesome, actually. If they can really balance that out, I think that could be fun.
Yeah, so we'll keep an eye out for more of that. Finally, the only other thing that we noticed is GameFly had a listing for a Switch game called Titan Quest, and this has not been seen anywhere else yet. So it's just the name of the game. We don't really have anything else on it other than maybe a single splash image. I have no idea what this is, but they are usually pretty accurate with the games that they list. They don't list games for nothing on there, so.
Yep. It looks like it's actually a top-down Diablo-style dungeon crawler, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, who knows? But it might be coming to the Switch. We'll see.
All right, so the new releases.
So for new releases, there's a lot of new releases this week. But to start off with, we have Caveman Warriors, Nine Parchments, WWE 2K18, and Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Yes, and coming out today, December 7th, Plague Road, The Sexy Brutale, which is that murder mystery game that we talked about a while back. Sounded pretty cool, actually. Yodanji, Riptide GP Renegade, Plantera Deluxe, Acorn Tactics, the Neo Geo Top Hunter game, Slain, Back from Hell, Embers of Mirim, Phantom Breaker, Battlegrounds Overdrive, which is that cool brawler that we saw trailer for, has a multiplayer kind of beat 'em up feel. Human Fall Flat, Vostok Incorporated, Teslagrad, Red Game Without a Great Name, and Dimension Drive.
Now on December 8th, Tennis in the Face comes out.
Yes, I'll just say from that game, I did see it kind of looks like, honestly, it's more of an Angry Birds game.
Yeah.
Where you're a guy slamming tennis balls at people and trying to blow things up.
Yeah, it definitely looks more like one of those physics Angry Birds style games than actual tennis.
Yes.
Now on December 12th, Pinball FX3 is coming out. That looks fun. Party Planet, The End is Nigh, Neo Geo, The Last Blade. On December 14th, Bleed is coming out, and Yooka-Laylee for a digital-only release.
Yes. All right, let's see. Do we have any time for any community pulse? You want to get one or two questions in?
Let's get a couple in.
All right, we'll try to squeeze in one or two community pulses just because you guys, you deserve it. Okay, so our first question is from Lawson Culver. He says, what responsibility, if any, do you think Nintendo should have in ensuring that games they sell actually work? Nine Parchments is so buggy I can only connect a multiplayer 1 out of 20 attempts. Should Nintendo have a refund system in place for terrible software? He must be very upset, which is interesting because I did play with him last night. He must have had a hard time getting into the games more than I realized.
Yeah, okay. When he actually played, did it seem like an enjoyable experience?
I think so. When he got in, he stayed in, but maybe he was having a hard time join, or maybe it was just an overload on the servers that night.
Who knows?
I do want to say, I feel that you might be a little strong on the first day of the game release when it's probably the most people playing it, but we'll see. Maybe he's totally right on that.
No, I do feel like his frustrations are actually are actually valid. And to actually address your specific question, I do feel like there should be a degree of curation that Nintendo has towards their games. There should definitely be a process for them to make sure that the games actually work on their system. It seems like it should be a standard thing, but it might.
I think there is.
There is. Yeah.
They do test it. I mean, but when it comes having troubles that's why I suspect that the fact that the game was having trouble might be due to something unexpected, like higher volume than anticipated of people on the servers or something like that.
Right. But there have been games that came on the Switch that have been really buggy. Like Troll and I even got a physical release, and that game was incredibly buggy and broken in some ways. So I do feel like Nintendo should have some degree of responsibility, actually a pretty high degree of responsibility, to make sure that it's at least playable when it first comes out.
I guess I would say, like what he says about refunds, I think if they do what like iPhone does,
and Steam does refunds too, digital refunds.
Or give you like a 24-hour, 48-hour chance to say, nope, this is a bad purchase. I want to return it. And you can get your credits back. And
I'm pretty sure that it does keep track of how long you're playing a specific game too. So maybe if you're within a certain time window and you want a refund, it might be a system they can add. I don't suspect that Nintendo's online infrastructure is going to be forward facing enough to allow that. But
I will say I played as the host the whole night, so maybe my lack of experiencing problems was related to that. So I'll have to play as a guest in other people's games and see if I experience any of those problems he's talking about.
Right. It'd probably be worth checking out.
Well, like I said, I had a smooth one, but again, it might have just been because I was the host.
Right.
Or maybe it was my internet connection that was causing their problems.
Yeah, maybe your internet connection does suck, Casey.
It's not the internet, it's just my router's old.
Yeah, right. Oh, that could really hinder people connecting to you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so anyway, from Danny Kenichi Avalos, I've heard mixed reviews about the graphics of XC2 in handheld mode. Do you believe the graphics in handheld can be improved to be closer to the docked mode? At this point, I suspect it probably won't receive any handheld graphic improvements. There are so many models and so many graphical requirements for this game that those types of updates probably won't happen post-release. So I don't suspect this is going to be one of their focuses.
Yeah, I mean, a game like this, I mean, anything that's so graphically impressive, especially on the TV, it's something that they, it's part of what the system is. You have to expect that when it goes into its lower power portable mode where it's, running the fan and it's, toned down the graphics so it could last the battery longer too. It's one of those things that you have to just expect. Some games just aren't going to look as pristine, and that's just part of the system.
And I do want to say that even in docked mode, sometimes there can be a few graphical issues. I've noticed sometimes while things are rendering, the models can get a bit blurry, and it's something that it doesn't hamper or deter from the experience of the game. But yeah, you can definitely tell that the Switch could probably do a bit better overall graphics-wise, and there could be improvements in that area, but I doubt that they're going to really work on that.
Okay, our final one is from Old Saint BMF, and he asks, this might be a bit redundant, but with all the NINDIEs coming out so fast, do you think they are releasing too many too fast? Thanks, keep up the good work.
That's actually a good question, I think. I honestly don't think that all the NINDIEs that are releasing are coordinating with each other. I don't think they really know the release schedules of all the other NINDIEs out there.
Yeah. I don't know if they're coming out too fast, only because I think that the types of games that have been coming out have been well diversified. And it's not like, we have this 4-player game, which the next game similar to it that people might be interested in or might be considered competition for it is that Dragon Mark of the Death or whatever, Mark of the Dragon game.
Yeah.
And that's a similar enough game that I feel like it could overlap and might steal one business from, towards the other. But there's enough space. I haven't seen any time where I was like, oh, here are 2 games that I feel like playing that are of the same type of, genre. I think that's more of the point. And as long as the quality, the only thing I could be worried about is if they, all the good games came out early on and then there weren't any more left. But it seems like there's a good supply still waiting in the rafters to join the collection.
Right. War group.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, but I definitely think that I don't think that they are really coordinating that. But
yeah, that's just like each one. I mean, half of them got delayed anyway because of it's hard to get games out on time, and the NINDIEs don't have all the resources necessary in the world to come out when expected. Pocket rumble, and where they come out when they can, and the earlier the better for some of them.
Right, exactly. And I also feel like we got so many indie releases this week, and I feel like it's because people all had the same idea to release after all the big Nintendo games have been released.
Yeah.
But then everyone else got the same idea.
Yeah, it was a really big week of releases. Yes. It was really big. But even looking at the games that came out this week, I mean, I don't feel that there's too much overlap in gameplay style. Like, you can find the game that's right for what you feel like playing right now.
Right, exactly.
All right, I think that's enough for this week.
Ooh, this has been a hefty episode.
Yes. I do want to thank everybody for listening, and our Patreon backers. If you have not already checked it out, please visit us at patreon.com/theswitchcast, and you can pledge $1, $5, whatever you feel comfortable with, and that's what really keeps this show going. We are totally supported by Patreon backers, and that's how we keep the show going. Also, we have a great community on Discord, Facebook, and Twitter. We have links to all those in the show notes if you are interested in joining any of those.
All right, thank you to HeatleyBros for the theme music, Halk, Protodome, and Will Rock for the closer.
Oh, and until next time,
switch it up.